Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Amy Williams, production designer of the Apple TV Plus series WeCrashed, about the rise and fall of WeWork, starring Jared Leto as Adam Neumann, WeWork co-founder, and Anne Hathaway as Rebecca Neumann, Adam's wife, and also a key figure in the WeWork mythos. Amy, I'm a huge fan of the show. Obviously, I know WeWork is an enterprise that popped because of its design and its amenities. So you're working on a show about like very well designed office space and stuff. I guess, like, where did you start? Because I mean, your work on the show is so incredibly detailed, and I just love to, just from like an overview of like when you were brought onto this project, like where did you start, and how'd you think about like recreating the office spaces and their own headquarters and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, luckily we had a really fun palette to play with based on, as you said, the existing office spaces that Miguel McLevy kind of came up with, and the design concept. So and there are hundreds of WeWork. So we were able to kind of I scoured the internet looking for like all the best pieces of all the different offices. And there was like kind of an interesting layout in the headquarters in New York. And it had these two levels, but so I was really attracted to the levels and just the chaos and kind of creating, sort of all these different zones and spaces, and really like an adult playground, which is what they were, So we also wanted to create this mystique about Adam, and putting him like high up on a hill, addressing his his flock of followers. So we, in the script, they heavily focused on these like Monday meetings, which were these things that they did in WeWork. So we wanted to give Adam this huge stage, and so we created these 3 different levels, and gave him like a big stained glass window over his head. So it was very like Christ-like and over the top, and the showrunners just loved the concept when I pitched it. And so it was really fun that we, my first initial thought and design was immediately accepted, and they were excited about it. And that's, pretty rare. So there were moments where I couldn't believe, I felt like I was getting away with something. Like, really? You're going to let me build something that's a city block long and 3 stories and has elevators and all these, crazy elements, and they were all about it. So it was kind of a dream.
So I was gonna ask you, I mean, like, it is wild though, because like it is so elaborate, and I mean, like, watching the show, you're just like, I just couldn't believe how big every space is and like how incredibly detailed it is. And I guess when like you said, it's like your first pitch. Is there all like, while I'm sure it is exciting, is there a little bit nervous? Like, oh, I thought maybe you were like, did you like try to throw everything in and like maybe expect them to say, well, you don't have to do X, Y, and Z, but like kind of like do this? Or like, because it seems like so much work that you're giving yourself to recreate all these things. So, I mean, was there an expectation maybe that they'd be like, well, you don't have to worry about like the elevators, let's say, or something like that?
No, it was, believe it or not, it was the opposite. They said, oh, this will never read on, the showrunners didn't, but a lot of people said, this will never read on camera. It won't look big enough. We really need scope. We really need scope. And I'm like, guys, this is the size of our stage. This is as big as we can possibly go. If we go any bigger, you won't have room for the lights. You won't have room for a backdrop. So, it was as big as we could possibly go. And, some people were like, we want more.
I can't believe that.
We want more space. We want more areas to shoot. But, it was brilliant because, they had the first few scripts. We designed the space, and then a lot of the story, our different directors and showrunners adapted, the common spaces to work for future episodes. So it's a great compliment that it kind of informed some of the direction and, the blocking of where actors would be and whatnot.
When you're creating like sets, like, and especially the offices, there's so many, obviously, just glass windows and stuff. It's so open. It's such an open air environment. How much do you work with like, the other departments, make sure you're like, how do you, like, you know what I mean? Like how they're hiding the cameras or where they're setting up shots and stuff like that. How much of that is your how much are you thinking about that and like working with the other departments when you're creating these
I
things?
mean, you absolutely have to work with the other departments. When I first presented the designs to everyone, the sound mixer chimed in and was like, wait a second, we're going to see the boom. And, it was a hard sell for a lot of people because these spaces had a lot of glass and, they were very open. There's not a lot of places to hide, but we did create some staircases and some levels and some little nooks and crannies where everyone could, kind of find their spot for the, logistical areas. But, it took a lot to sell. But the thing is that we added a lot of lights, we added plants, and, there's sculptures and art and furniture. And, I kept saying, I was like, guys, I know right now the shell looks like it's a big reflective box, but it's, there's going to be other things in the way. There's going to be some chaos. We're going to, take care of it. Please trust me. It'll look great. And I'm sure there's some VFX tricks here or there to get rid of a boom.
Maybe,
But,
right? Yeah.
Overall, everyone, kind of got with the program. And I think, the audience notices the difference, because when you play it safe and you don't have those surfaces and those reflections, it doesn't feel real. And I think, with the lighting and, certainly the actors in front of the screen, it gives that sense of realism. And, we even played with the idea of like, okay, we're in New York City, so let's make sure the lighting isn't too sunny. Let's make sure there's overcast days. Let's, add some variety to it. And I think it really helped.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I think the detail of the show is one of the things I really love about it. I wanted to ask you about Adam and Rebecca's apartment, but before we do that, I just wanted to keep on the office space. I love the We Grow, the school, Rebecca's school that is just such a boondoggle in the show. And obviously it's so specific. And I just think all the detail in that is so incredible. And I haven't really, I've seen interviews, I've read interviews with you, and I know you've talked about like the sets in general, but I had not really seen a lot about that one. So I'd love, can you talk a little about like creating We Grow, and I guess just in general, working with Anne as Rebecca, because I feel like so much of her, it's such a great performance, and I think she's so seemingly so in control of Rebecca and her environments. I guess I'd imagine there was a lot of collaboration there, but maybe not. I don't know. So like, what was that like?
Oh, absolutely. She's Anne Hathaway is all in on her characters and her research. She's the most thorough and prepared person. And we had a regular text thread going with one another. I would present, I think early on we had never worked together. So of course, she wanted to get a good idea of what spaces her character would, find herself in. And so early on, I shared a lot of the designs with her, which was the opposite with Jared Leto, because he's, completely method. So, he just shows up. But Anne's, got researchers. She's very engaged. And, it was just it was a fun collaboration. She would get excited. She would pitch me ideas, very specific things about, where her character's sofa came from, and, how maybe it was a hand-me-down from her parents, when she was early on in her life. She would come in and say, I don't know if that Noguchi lamp is going to work. I don't know if Rebecca would have that. She would even, look at the books. Wow. But she was also super supportive, and I would get text messages that would say like, Amy, you freaking nailed this. Thanks so much. And that was exciting. It was great.
And how about for We Grow itself? Like, how did you guys, I imagine there's images of that as well that you probably researched, but I mean, how did you design that space and make it it just feels exactly right for someone who is not familiar with We Grow until watching the show. While I didn't know the WeWork story and stuff, I was like, that part eluded me a little. So seeing it, I was like, oh, this is incredible. I can't believe this is real. And it just feels so perfect watching it. So
I need to post more of those photos, because not all of it made it onto camera. So I'll definitely do a We Grow post, but that was one that we had to be very careful with, because it was designed by a famous architect, the original one. So we worked with our legal department to try to, redesign, sort of stay in the same vein, but we had to redesign every little element, and even the stain on the wood that we used for the trees. It was a big clearance process, but it was really fun. And my art director and I both have young kids, so we would share the photos with our kids, and they'd be like, "More trees, more," and so that one was just another little like fantasy playground. It's a school that I think everyone would dream to go to. It was, so high designed. I wish it had been in more episodes. It was just really fun and really playful. And I even brought my 6-year-old in on the day of the shoot, and he was one of the background kids in it. So
that's really cool.
It became a family affair.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
That's awesome. And then I mentioned the apartment. They're so rich, obviously. Adam and Rebecca have all this wealth, and the apartment feels, both as someone who is not in possession of so much wealth, it feels very much like a a rich person's apartment, but also very specific to their taste and stuff, but not over the top. It feels tastefully wealthy, I guess. At least I guess that was my impression of it. I guess, can you talk a little about creating that space for them, and how you kind of thought about that? And again, I'm sure there are obviously real photos of their real apartment and stuff. So I mean, how how are you recreating that versus putting your own imprint on it?
Well, we did have there's a lot of real estate listings of all the homes they owned, and their tastes are very specific. I think when we cast Anne Hathaway and Jared Leto, we needed to sort of adapt more to who, they were embodying. And also, their real penthouse that they had in Gramercy Park, it didn't photograph that great. I mean, I'm sure it was, a $40 million apartment, but, still in New York City, things are small. So I really wanted to open up the space and add a lot more lighting design into the apartment to give it that sort of glammy, elevated feel. And we played back and forth. We wanted to make it tasteful, but also these characters, they didn't actually have the best taste. They were focused on other things. Certainly Adam. So we threw in a few bad choices into the design. But overall, we wanted to create a contrast to the brightly colored primary colors of the WeWork spaces, and we wanted to give them a safe love cocoon, as it were, to grow their family, because we didn't we tried not to pass so much judgment on these characters, and that was sort of their safe space that we wanted to give to them. And again, we played with sort of similar themes of having different levels to kind of represent their growth and the transformation through this story.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really love about the show, is that it doesn't really prejudge the characters and kind of lets the audience decide on their own, which I think is a novel idea nowadays, because I think a lot of shows do like to put their finger on the scale, and this one doesn't, which is one of the reasons I really enjoyed it. Do you have we've talked about a lot of these different sets and the production design, and it's like I said, it's so incredible. Do you have a favorite or something you're most proud of that you were able to accomplish, or that was that was a challenge, or that you were just really excited to actually execute?
I think I was really excited to work with Lee Eisenberg again. We worked together on Little America, and to have that continued collaboration and support meant everything. Every show you have to work within a budget, and sometimes the art department and production design is valued, and sometimes it's not. And on this one, I felt so supported, and that just made the creativity flow even more. And it was just cool to have the crew embrace the set. And I think Lee mentioned in one of his articles, it just became like a hangout. People were just drawn to the spaces. They felt comfortable within them. They enjoyed working within the spaces, and that's also kind of a rare thing for crew members. So even though that never makes it on camera. I think it adds to the overall excitement and vibe of the show. So that was, that was really rewarding to be able to, have all these playgrounds and elements and have the support of Apple and the showrunners. So
Yeah. It's really great. And last thing, you mentioned how you like Jared is so method and he's in character as Adam most of the time. Did you get like now that it's over, like have you actually met Jared? Like how does that work? I guess like
what, I haven't met him yet, but Adam was, we would have all these meetings with the department heads and the directors, and Adam would walk by and just like, go team, let's do this. And so it was such like, he's method, but it was such a nice character to be method about. So it was, it was really like fun. And I don't think any of us referred to him as Jared by the end of it. He was always just Adam. And he was so generous. He always, like twice a week, food trucks for the crew. And, I think he gifted some of us with these like miniature gongs that said "We created."
That's awesome.
So, and in his, thank you card to me, I think he mentioned, I know we've never met, but, thank you for these spaces and for this design. So,
that's awesome.
Someday I'll meet him and I'll say like, hey, remember that character? But no, I think I only just met Adam.
That's awesome though. And it's such a great performance and he's so charismatic. And I think it's really easy to see at least how he portrays him, how people are kind of like sucked into the cyclone of WeWork. And it's just a great performance. And the show is wonderful. And I think your designs are truly incredible. Like I said, like the set, it just is an incredible look and really feels so realistic. Amy Williams, a production designer for WeCrashed. Thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was really fun.